Hello, this is Sam Simon, also known as Dementia Man, and this is my blog for the week of March 8th. And I'm going to be in Atlanta this week. So I'm going to be in Atlanta for the National Conference of DAA, that's Eating Alternative. Um, their DA's Dementia Action Alliance, and the Eating Alternative is an organization that now is a nonprofit that encompasses DAA. And they're about programs for dignity and living well with and dementia, and making sure that the society and communities and people with the diseases, caregivers, and those like me with it have the resources, but mainly about doing so with dignity and grace and um, I dare say joy. I don't know about joy, but meaning. Um, and I'm so glad to be able to be there and hear about the latest changes, because let me tell you something. What I want today to be about is um, agenda for change, but agenda for change, why? Because of the pending onslaught of the baby boomer generation. What is unique about 2026? Well, 2026 is going to be the first year in which the baby boomer generation begins or to turn 80. Uh, what I can find out is in the range, I think this is high, but maybe not. 3.4 million baby boomers will enter their 80s, and the numbers continue to increase year after year into the um, uh, 80, 2026. It could be 36, even 46. Um, it will be an era of the largest 80-year-old generation ever. And of course, what does that mean? Uh, for sure, well, us people with the disease, with society, how to rethink aging, and and that's what in my book, by the way, here I have my own copy. You can see it behind me. I've developed my own agenda for change, and I'm sure it's inadequate, that better minds have done better things. But I wanted to spend a few minutes now to raise this up, because I think it's going to be part of this big conference next week of getting ready for this tsunami and dramatic change in our society of um, people in their 80s, and therefore with less cognitive capacity, and the people taking care of them. Also with an agenda for living well with these diseases. Um, and I'm going to be spending more and more time. I hope that's part of my advocacy going forward. Uh, in my journey, I was born in 45. I'm technically pre-boomer, um, but my journey is probably a prediction of what's coming, and I know that. Um, so I wanted to urge you all to go get Dementia Man, the book, um, and to become part of this advocacy world for change. Chapter 14 of the book is called An Agenda for Change. So I'm going to be a high level at the moment and hope to spend a little bit more time. And stay tuned for the end. Don't tune out now, because at the end, before I go, I want to do a shout out to some folks that I met this past weekend at the Stony Brook Medical Center students uh, who are not entering their 80s. They're in their 20, mid 20s. And I want to give a shout out to Stephen Post, who has brought me to Stony Brook. And because he represents another line of blogging I'm going to do. But today I want to talk about an agenda for change. And this is going to be a consistent theme for a while and maybe work with other groups to really have a serious advocacy around these specific things. Although there are already people doing this. So, and I'm going to start with the campaign. And in the book, it's called Change the Lexicon. Eliminate the D word. Dementia. It's a relic. It comes from a time we didn't understand, and indeed, and we didn't understand what these cognitive changes were. So I want to give a shout out. There's a website out there. There's a whole movement. It's a campaign to change the D word. And well, change the D word. It's HTTPS, notdemented.com. And I want to shout out to Mike Sandell. He's been a guest I've been on this program in the past. And he's been leading this movement. Why do we want to change the D word? First of all, it's demeaning. Quote my play, I'm a crazy, mad, or insane. We already have a history of changing words like retarded. There was legislation to do that, and then the N word. It also is a barrier for people to speak out, to acknowledge what they have. It creates a sense of shame and tragedy that also leads people to, or certainly potentially an element of seeking suicide when it's not necessary. Well, I never think suicide is necessary. I'm 100% against it. We have the ability to make no matter what happens to us, that there's a potential that what happens to us can have a gift of the future, that as we pass and in whatever our circumstances, particularly if we have a disease like I do of Alzheimer's, that my end of life will be able to create some new discovery, even if it's just a tiny bit that helps create find a solution, find a cure for the disease. So in chapter 14, the agenda for change starts with change the D word. By the way, the medical world in 2013 changed what's called the DMS, the medical diagnosis of what used to be called dementia. It's now called neurocognitive disorders, major or minor. So that's the first one. Then my second agenda for change, and there's progress in this one that I didn't know, this one might be a little bit of news, is to have cognitive navigation for all. When Susan, my wife, was diagnosed with breast cancer, even the hospitals, way back in 2000, they had cognitive breast navigators. And in 2024, Medicare started funding breast navigation for women who were diagnosed, and men too, but women who were diagnosed with breast cancer. Why not for navigation for those of us, cognitive navigators, for those of us diagnosed with cognitive disorders. Now, I happen to have Alzheimer's, but there's frontal lobal dementia. There's all sorts of dementias. And, the word is so bad, if you called it a cognitive disorder, we wouldn't go right to the worst case. When I was diagnosed, I was told that it'd be another 5 to 10 years before things got a lot worse. And I am already at my 7th year. I'm doing pretty good. I'm out there and I'm advocating. And but I do need help. And so I'm gonna go grab over here. I should have had it handy. My um, hidden disability lanyard. And they are available and they help let uh, uh, people in transportation, airlines and trains know that I need extra help and extra support. And we need to do that. We need to have um, a whole series of accommodations for people. And I would like to see a law passed. But the law is passed. I would like to see it implemented, and that is that there's accessibility built into everything. That's going to be my next agenda. Right now, I want to be able to have a cognitive navigator, a person who can help me navigate. Now, it's my wife now, but I may need more serious support. She may need help. Cognitive navigation should be part of Medicare. And there is good news that the program is called GUIDE, Guide. There is a Medicare test going on. I may have mentioned it before, providing cognitive navigations, how to navigate the medical system. But I wanted everyday life navigation too, so that even when I have a spouse or a family member who can help, our ability to perhaps even daycare centers should be covered by some insurance. There should be people maybe at every, let's do that. People who are available in my home and to me and my wife are covered by insurance to help us navigate the little and big things in life on an everyday basis. Okay, hard stuff. Then my next thing is cognitive friendly accessibility in any publicly facing business and service. Just there are, to the same degree that there are ramps into every location in rails, there should be cognitive accommodations. What does that mean? Well, I believe that any store that's required to be accessible for people in wheelchairs has to be accessible to people with cognitive disorders. And to do that is not that hard. We can train people to understand what those of us with cognitive disorders need. We can provide a desk area, again, with those colors, some of those colors above, with somebody who has been trained to support those of us with the disorders. Many places could have special checkout counters, rather than having to do self-checkout, which is becoming the standard everybody. I might not be able to do that well. But there's always at least one counter for those of us, and it's separate from the other checkout counters, so that not everybody else is stuck behind us and delayed. They're trying that out in some grocery stores in Iowa. It's not that crazy. And with so many people with these cognitive disorders coming on, it is urgent that we have even clothing stores, or I say even clothing stores, drug stores, toy stores, any kind of store, any kind of business, doctor's offices, hospitals, all have that. Then also in transportation, and it's coming already, more so than another, planes and trains, cognitive navigation and planes and trains. That's what I have in my book and ideas around that. And there are organizations that are advocating for it. And I'm part of them as to the extent I can. And I list those organizations in the book, and you can then join and be part of them. Again, if you're attending the DAA Eden Alternative in Atlanta, look me up. If you go to the website, DementiaMan.com, my cell number is on that. You can text me and we can meet each other. There's also, so I hope to meet you all there, some of you there, if you're watching it. Now, a bit about, I said, this past weekend. I was so delighted and so appreciative of being able to perform Dementia Man for about 140 first-year medical students at Stony Brook Medical Schools. And a deep thank you to Stephen Post, the author of the book. He is the director of the Center for Medical Humanities, Compassionate Care, and Bioethics at the Renaissance School of Medicine at Stony Brook. Thank you, Stephen Post. And I'm so excited that he and I have hit it off. He's a remarkable guy. And he and I are going to work on our similar visions of what love really means. You know, I began exploring that idea. It's not a simple idea. By the way, so in my own journey, it's facing the prospect of holding Susan as she took her last breath. I engaged or was consumed by the nature of love and trying to understand it. And I came to believe, and I do believe, that love is when our essence, that I believe we each have a non-physical, an existential essence, like breath, and that we can enter a singularity, that we become a single soul. That's how I define love, a single soul. Now, I just found out this weekend, I'm going to give him a shout out, and then we'll end this, that Stephen Post is also interested in that area. And I got his book, and it's called Pure Unlimited Love. And I did notice it's a little bit different than, by the way, it has an introduction, a foreword by the Dalai Lama. He's a little bit more well-known than I am. I don't have the Dalai Lama knocking on my door yet. And their definition is a little bit more cognitive. It's the idea of being able to relate to someone in the same way as you would relate to yourself, and to treat them let's see, is when their definition, when the security and well-being of another is as real or meaningful to you as your own, and sometimes even more so, then we're in the field of love. Well, I think there's a gap between them and me. The existential nature of love, the breadth, the singularity of when two souls integrate, and then the more conscious everyday behaviors. So stay tuned for more of that, and also join one of these organizations. Join me Go on our website. You can see that we have a listserv. Be part of trying to bring change to this field and get ready for the tsunami. Thank you, and we'll be in touch with you next week.